Hey, world, what's up? It's your boy G Shrimp, everybody fake baby daddy, voice of the street, man. And today we in ATL with it, y'all. Breaking news, y'all. Breaking news. Y'all remember the 10 guys who escaped from the jail in New Orleans? Yes. They was on the run, y'all. Remember it was two of them left. They caught the last one, and I think his name was Matsy and Andre Matsy. They caught him. He was doing videos going all on Instagram and shit. They finally picked him off. But we had the last one on the run, Derrick Groves, right? Well, looked like they done caught him, y'all. That money finally paid off, y'all, because they caught him through a Crime Stopper tip. That's where they found him at, y'all. In ATL. He been hiding out in whoever house he at, he been super low key, but little shit get out, cousin know, friend knows, people find out. I've been staying with a stripper bitch, somebody who don't need no money and one go set him out, somebody who's come through enough to not fight the temptation of turning him in. But it was a friend of a friend that probably did him in, y'all. Let me what I'm talking about, and this just happened, y'all. This
I think we do have one of the reporters on the scene if we want to join them. We have the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service is joining us now by phone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, hello.
Hi. What can you tell us about how this all unfolded and U.S. Marshal's Office was leading the effort here?
U.S. Marshals, along with several other agencies, were involved in this investigation, and we got critical support from Crime Stoppers GNO on this particular matter as well.
I guess that kind of answers one of our questions there. How important were these tips, and really, what can you talk about what led you guys to this house?
Also, this is Brian Fair with the U.S. Marshal Service, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, just to tell people who you are.
Yeah. So the Crime Stoppers tips have been important all summer in getting multiple of the escapees captured. We've been receiving tips all summer, doing follow-up work on them. We received some tips that are people with the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, NOPD, Louisiana State Police, FBI, and HSI assisted us with investigating these tips. And this one obviously panned out. Mr. Groves was tracked to a residence on Honeysuckle Street in Atlanta, Georgia this morning, and we had sent what we call a collateral lead request from the U.S. Marshals New Orleans Task Force to the U.S. Marshals Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force. They went out this morning with the support of the Atlanta Police Department SWAT team, and after a probably 2 to 3 hour, I don't want to call it a standoff, it wasn't quite that, but after multi hours of trying to search the home, pumping gas into the home, Groves was finally located hiding in a crawl space.
So it was at that initial house that law enforcement responded to?
Correct. It was at the house they responded to late. I guess it would be late this morning on Honeysuckle. And ultimately, he was located in that residence, but it took well over 2 hours, probably closer to 3 hours, to have him finally apprehended in the house.
Was anyone else in the home?
Not that I'm aware of. No, no.
Have you been able to piece together what the connection is between Derrick Groves and this particular house?
That's going to take some time, and that's going to be the subject of follow-up investigative work.
Any idea if additional people may face charges related to this situation?
It's possible. If it's determined that people helped him while he was on the run, they could definitely face charges.
Now, you all have gotten tips over the weeks of where he might be. I mean, how far and wide have you all been searching for him?
I mean, we've had tips all over the United States, the East Coast, West Coast, state of Kansas, you name it. There's been multiple tips that have come in. We've had to follow up on all of them. And while doing our own investigation along the way with support from our law enforcement partners, and this one finally panned out.
It has been a huge effort between you all and those other law enforcement partners. I mean, can you even put into words for us what that has meant for this investigation?
I mean, it was a force multiplier where the U.S. Marshals cannot take total credit for this arrest. We were heavily involved in it, but without all the partner agencies we worked with, this would not have been the result. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower conducting follow-up because Derrick Groves and many of his associates are dangerous people.
Can you kind of paint us a picture, if you will, kind of walk us through what happened during the arrest of Derrick Groves and you taking him out of the house?
Wasn't there, so there's really not much I can add other than I know the SWAT team was there. They had to deploy gas multiple times into the residence. I believe there was a basement in the house, and ultimately I think that was searched, and he was located in a crawl space. At least that's my understanding of what occurred.
Uninjured, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my, maybe some scuff marks, but pretty much uninjured.
And you said that you got the Crime Stoppers tip when?
We received multiple Crime Stoppers tips on Derrick Groves, so I don't know the exact date that the tip came in.
Do you know if any of those tips have led you to Atlanta before, or is this the first one that points to Atlanta?
No, we've had tips in Georgia as well as all over the United States, so we've had multiple tips in Georgia and other places.
You know, so what happens next with Groves? He's in custody, we've seen in Atlanta. What's the next step here?
So if he waives extradition or doesn't fight extradition, he would be extradited back to Louisiana. If I were guessing, I would think Louisiana State Police would more than likely have some involvement in that extradition process, like they've done with the other escapees. If he fights extradition, eventually law enforcement would have to secure a government warrant to have him extradited back to Louisiana.
All right, well, I assume we're going to hear more from law enforcement agencies as we continue throughout the afternoon. We can't thank you enough, Brian Fair, for joining us and giving us the very latest on this breaking situation. Thankful no one was hurt.
Yes, absolutely. It was a successful conclusion. Everybody was very pleased that no one was hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
And first, one of my neighbors came down and they turned them around and said there's SWAT and all that down here. So I had to come see what was going on.
What did you hear? Did you hear anything?
Oh, yeah. I was standing up there right by the bushes, and I had some binoculars, and I was looking to see what was going on. And they had 3 or 4 SWAT trucks up here, and then they lowered the arm down, went through the garage door, it looked like, and there were flashbangs and all that.
What was your heavy hearing all that?
It don't bother me that much. It's just, I do demolition construction, so noise don't bother me.
You're used to hearing loud noise.
Yeah. So.
House in southwest Atlanta. It was surrounded by multiple law enforcement agencies as they tried to figure out whether or not Groves was actually inside of that home. We don't know what led police to that location. We don't know how long they've been keeping an eye on that situation, but if you'll remember, what you're seeing on your screen right now is when those 10 inmates escaped out of Orleans Justice Center. We do have some new video that we're going to show you in just a moment of the location in Atlanta, the house in the southwest part of town where Derrick Groves apparently was holed up. We don't know for how long. We don't know how long law enforcement has had their eyes on that location and how long they've been waiting to go in. Could have been a tip this morning, could have been a tip 2 weeks ago. Those are details that we're hoping to get as we continue to follow this very urgent breaking news situation this afternoon. So again, if you're just joining us, what we know is that inmate Derrick Groves, one of the 10 escapees from the Orleans Justice Center earlier this year, has been taken back into custody in southwest Atlanta. There was a lot of questions after this happened about whether or not he had crossed state lines, whether or not he had gone to Texas. Many people in Louisiana have ties to both Houston area, Texas, and the Atlanta area. A lot of that because of how people have migrated since Hurricane Katrina. But lots of people had those connections. There were a lot of questions about whether or not those areas would be where we would find Derrick Groves hiding. And what we know now is that law enforcement agencies from law enforcement sources are telling us that he was taken into custody in southwest Atlanta this afternoon. We first began hearing about this morning, rumblings that law enforcement may have been working on a tip. And you'll recall that over the last several months, law enforcement, both here in New Orleans, in Texas, in different states, have responded to tips that they received that some of these inmates had been hiding in those locations. A lot of times it would end up being a false alarm. In this case, that was not the situation. Derrick Groves apparently holed up in the house in southwest Atlanta. A huge law enforcement effort is what it took in order to capture him. He's been on the run since this happened, which has been several weeks now. I mean, it's been months since the Orleans Justice Center escape. This obviously, breaking news as we have a sheriff's election coming up on Saturday. So very interesting timing and how this is all unfolding. Back when this happened, there were a lot of questions about whether or not the Orleans Justice Center was fully staffed, whether or not they had adequate security. Since then, some improvements have been made to the Orleans Justice Center in order to secure it. But we did hear just last week that there was another escape attempt that had been thwarted at the jail. So, it's obviously a jailer's biggest burden or task or job to keep those inmates secure and in humane conditions at any jail that they're responsible for. So a huge responsibility there. Now, again, if you're just joining us at this hour, it is just before 1:30 in the afternoon. We know that just a little while ago, law enforcement agencies, multiple different law enforcement agencies were working a scene in southwest Atlanta. That is where we now know that Derrick Groves was found. He has been taken back into custody. We don't know his condition. We have not heard from law enforcement sources how he's doing, how that capture took place. Again, we do have news crews from two different stations in Atlanta who are headed to the scene as we speak to try and get the very latest from there on the ground in Atlanta to find out exactly how law enforcement took him back into custody. This is very much a breaking news situation. We have been following this, just for the last several minutes, but this is something that has been unfolding for the last several weeks as these 10 inmates escaped from the Orleans Justice Center earlier this year. This was a huge international news story when this happened. Many people called this a historic jailbreak. Sheriff Susan Hudson has sort of put that into perspective, talking about, the fact that there have been other escapes in the past. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that this was the largest jailbreak that the city of New Orleans had seen in recent memory. 10 inmates escaping through a hole in the wall that had been carved out through behind a toilet. There were bars in the wall that had been sawed through at that facility, and that's when these inmates were able to get out. And there were some other questions that were raised back when that happened about the fact that there were several hours that passed before guards at the jail realized that these 10 inmates were actually missing. So those have been some of the questions that have been surfacing since this historic jailbreak happened several months ago. We've been continuing to follow it as they had several false alarms where they thought Derrick Groves might have been hiding. We've responded to several just within our newsroom. Once we heard that there may have been a tip that Derrick Groves had been found. Today, that is exactly what happened. Derrick Groves taken back into custody outside of Atlanta in a southwest Atlanta neighborhood. Apparently, he was holed up in a house there. We know that another inmate was also holed up in a house here in New Orleans. May have been an Airbnb situation. That's what we heard from the property owner once that inmate was recaptured. Many of them were recaptured pretty quickly. Derrick Groves has been the outlier. He has been the one who has been on the lam since this happened. And so, again, if you are just joining us, Derrick Groves has been taken into custody in southwest Atlanta. We are hearing that from law enforcement sources. Again, we do have two crews that are headed to the scene there in Atlanta to bring us the very latest. And what we're hearing from those law enforcement sources is that he may have been hiding in a crawl space and possibly at a house nearby that location. So that is the latest that we're getting as those details start to trickle into our newsroom, and as our reporters are continuing to work their sources, myself included, trying to get more information on how this all unfolded this morning. This has been a manhunt that has been weeks in the making, and many eyes on law enforcement as they tried to figure out exactly what happened with Derrick Groves. There were some questions about whether or not he was in Houston or whether or not he was in Atlanta. And right now, let's take a look at this. This is a live picture from the scene. You can see heavily armed law enforcement officers, suited up in full regalia, full SWAT gear with cameras on their helmets. They are fully armed, and this is in that neighborhood in Southwest Atlanta, where we now know that Derrick Groves was taken back into custody. So this is a live picture from the scene at this hour. Lots of law enforcement sources. You can see a police vest there. That's an indication that possibly Atlanta police are involved in this operation. We know that the U.S. Marshal's Office is likely involved in this situation, given that they have been the ones who've been leading the search for Derrick Groves. That is a SWAT vehicle that you can see right there that's now being maneuvered around this neighborhood in Southwest Atlanta. That is what we're looking at right now, is a heavily armored vehicle, likely part of possibly the Atlanta Police Department's SWAT unit. You see a police car there in the foreground. Also an indicator that this is Atlanta police. I'm not familiar with what their police cruisers look like, but that is an indicator that this is actually Metro Atlanta Police possibly helping in this operation. We started to first get word, that looks like Clayton. I'm not sure, Clayton County Police possibly, which you would think would be a sheriff's office. So maybe it's Clayton, Georgia. I'm not sure if this is like a smaller suburban municipality. We're going to have to kind of clarify the exact details of where exactly this is, or that could just be a neighboring police department that has been assisting Atlanta police, assisting federal authorities, assisting a number of different law enforcement agencies as they tried to figure out whether or not, first, Derrick Groves was actually in this location, and secondly, how to find him and how to take him into custody. No word from any sort of law enforcement sources about whether or not, he was injured as they took him into custody, or what his condition might be at this time. But we do know that he is in law enforcement custody per our law enforcement sources as of around 1 o'clock this afternoon. So this weeks-long manhunt is now over for Derrick Groves. The question now will be, number one, getting those details, trying to find out exactly how this unfolded this afternoon in Atlanta, how law enforcement ended up getting a tip about where Derrick Groves might be. Of course, we do know that there is a huge reward for information, essentially, a type of bounty on his head for anybody who was able to provide a Crime Stoppers tip. I believe it's $100,000, something close to that, if I remember correctly, about how much money people could make just by tipping off the police about where he might be. So unclear at this point whether or not that huge reward for information played a role here. We would think that we would get those details as law enforcement, starts to make statements about this for the record. What we know right now is coming from our law enforcement sources. We're all, as reporters, trying to figure out what those details are, trying to get that information so that we can bring it to you and bring you the very latest as we continue this breaking news cut-in for everyone out there. You can see lots of heavily armored vehicles. Just take a look at this on your screen right now. This is another heavily armored vehicle that's positioned in and around this house and this neighborhood in Southwest Atlanta. So huge law enforcement presence. I know if I'm one of the neighbors in that area, I'm wondering what in the world is going on there, especially since this has ties to New Orleans, not actually Atlanta. So the residents are probably very shocked about what they're seeing this afternoon. You can see, though, if you look at the different vests of these law enforcement officers, look, you can see Atlanta police right there. There's a police cruiser for them. So that's an indication that Atlanta police for Atlanta proper are involved in this operation. You can see the SWAT vehicles are being moved. What we do know, from our law enforcement sources is that, again, this is happening and unfolding before your eyes right now in this southwest Atlanta neighborhood. What we do have some new information coming in. Mike McDaniel is joining me here in the studio. We're going to continue to look at this live picture. But, Mike, just tell us what we have new information-wise in terms of what's going on there in Atlanta.
Yeah, and so in regards to some of those sources, they did tell us that he was walked out in handcuffs. So
Okay.
that does tell us apparently he is in good condition. Considering everything that's going on, you had all the gassing going on, you had him surrounded, barricaded, whatever the case may have been. So he seems to be fine, as opposed to being walked out in handcuffs. We have gotten a statement from the district attorney, Jason Williams, here in the Orleans Parish. I'm going to read that for you here. Today, we have confirmed the escape inmate Derrick Groves has been captured in Atlanta, Georgia, following a standoff at a residence in southwest Atlanta after nearly 5 months on the run after his escape from Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office custody on May 16th, 2025.
Okay.
Now, he goes on to say Groves' escape represented a serious breach of public safety. You've been talking about that. Of course, the historic failure, as we've seen when it comes to custodial security there at the jail. His capture brings a long-awaited calm to victims, their families, the witnesses who testified, the assistant district attorneys who prosecuted him, and the people of New Orleans who were rightly concerned that a convicted violent offender had escaped so easily and evaded justice for so long. And that brings another section to the fold here is the people who were the victims.
Absolutely.
The people who testified against him.
Yes.
They have for months now been looking over their shoulder effectively.
Yes.
We know that they've been working with the sheriff's office as well as the district attorney's office, state police, to try and get some type of protection in place. But you can only protect people out in the public for so long.
Yes.
When you have someone like this, Derrick Groves, on the loose. So now this brings that finality to them that maybe they can have some closure with this arrest that we now know happened in southwest Atlanta at that home.
Absolutely. Derrick Groves is one of the inmates who was actually convicted. He was awaiting sentencing.
And the only one.
The only one, yes, who was post-conviction, who was in the jail, again, awaiting sentencing. At that point, he would have been transferred to a state prison to serve out the rest of his sentence. So now you would think that some additional charges would be added to what Derrick Groves has already been convicted of. We have reporters both in Atlanta and here in New Orleans standing by. Alyssa Curtis has been following this story as it's unfolded over the last 5 months. She's joining us now outside of the Sheriff's Office headquarters and Orleans Justice Center with the latest. So, Alyssa, what have you managed to find out so far?
Yeah, honestly, that it's a very fast moving situation right now, Katie. I'm here at the jail, like you mentioned, and outside it seems kind of like business as usual, but I would imagine inside the sheriff's office and beyond these walls, I'm sure they are scrambling. I'm sure they were happy to have some finality to this situation that's been happening for 5 months. 5 months is kind of crazy. It feels like it was yesterday, but also a year ago. We've been dealing with this in New Orleans for so long. And Derrick Groves, of course, the last inmate to be found. Now we know he was in Atlanta. Several of those escaped inmates, though, were found kind of quickly after we heard the news. We know that there was a huge scene in the French Quarter a few hours after they escaped, and some of those inmates were found there, some inmates found in other states. But Derrick Groves has been the one inmate they seemingly, had some issues and trouble locating specifically, but now we know that has come to an end. That day back in May 16th, was extremely hectic. Now, we know that the escape began in the early morning, hours before several people and most people across the city and the state knew what was happening. We know now that the escape happened or started around 12:30 in the morning that day when they were, we've seen the video of them kind of pulling on that doors for several minutes. It seems like we know once they were able to breach that door, they were able to pull a toilet off of the wall. And after, we've all seen those pictures of the hole in the wall with the drawings that say "too easy" on the wall. We now know that, once they were able to get out of the jail, they escaped through a loading dock. They scaled a wall and then ran across the interstate. This again happened all in the early morning hours of May 16th, but we didn't really know what was happening until much later, and that has been a huge point of contention in this situation. The delay of notification. Now, we saw in the days after the escape, Sheriff Hudson and several law enforcement agencies go to city council to present information on this, and the big question was, where was that delay in information? Why wasn't the public, the news, city leaders, state leaders told about this huge breach in the jail? So that still has been a point of discussion in the past 5 months, and I'm sure will continue to be a point of discussion. Because of that, we've heard Sheriff Susan Hudson say that there has been several safety and issues with things like locks in the jail, and she's been mentioning that for a long time. But again, that has been a point of discussion throughout all of this, and a question to the city council: are you going to help fund this? Are you going to help get things done that we need in the jail to prevent things like this from happening again? So still a lot of questions to be answered in that. But again, this has been such a long situation, 5 months now, coming to an end. Now, again, those 9 inmates who escaped but had been refound, whether it was in New Orleans or across state lines, they have all now been sitting in a state facility. We've seen pictures, and we know from state officials that after they were recaptured, they were taken to a state facility with what base officials say is better security, so they can essentially keep a better eye on them. So these cases are still wrapping up, but of course we'll continue to follow them. Katie, back to you.
Yeah, lots of great.
Well, y'all, that's enough of that, They got them. They got all 10 of them, y'all. They really down there. Now, we go find out in a few days, was it the tip that led them there? And I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the tip, y'all, because this was always do it. But he did a pretty good job running, and he wasn't running around. He wasn't in the street. He was in somebody's house, y'all. And, somebody let him stay in that house, because he was the only one in there, they say, and he heard him coming. Probably looked out the window and said, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Look, what else he gonna say? Oh, shit. You know what I mean? Listen, that's one thing about being a goddamn criminal, y'all. That's bad. That's something I don't miss. You can have your day planned out, my girl go bring a pizza in at 8 o'clock. Yeah, we go watch goddamn The Godfather and shit. She got that new movie. She said she go bring it over and shit, Then you hear deep, 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 deep. You look at, oh shit. That's still, you see them setting up. You can't do nothing but look like, God damn. You might as well get the phone. Hey, babe, yeah. Yeah, you ain't even got to come. Don't come on here tonight. Yeah. Yeah, they out there, babe. They got this motherfucker surrounded. Hey, I just want to let you know, I really appreciate you. Let me stay at this house, until you sold it, man. Your name, it's in the rental place and shit, right? It ain't your name, ain't it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm finna destroy this phone and shit, so you ought to be cool, man. But, tell your sister thank you, man, or whoever got the house for you. Tell them thank you. I really appreciate it, I might call you collect and shit. Is that all right? hey, can I call you collect? See, I'm gonna be at the station. Yeah. Yeah, they go, I'm in Atlanta, so they gotta go take me right up the street. Yeah, down the street. Yeah, I'm probably gonna be there. Probably take about a week, and then I'll be back in New Orleans. Yeah. Make sure you tell your sister thank you for letting me stay at this house, though. I ain't trying to be funny, man, but listen, he got murdered, y'all, so he gonna be gone a long time, Now, don't nobody wanna die. You know what I mean? But you might as well banged it out with these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? You could have, if you wanted to. You could have went out like a gangster and said, man, fuck that. I'm gonna have a chop and everything. Because some people do that. I remember Detroit had a Detroit SWAT unit, right? And they used to follow them around, and they would be talking about the people they're trying to get They be riding on the trucks, going to bust a motherfucker. They looking, they like, the dope boys out here today. They out here. We'll be back to get y'all tomorrow. We'll be back to get y'all next week. We going down here because, they do that, y'all. They have targets they ride by and they be like, yeah, we coming to get them next week. And they do it too. They come back next week. When I got arrested, they had a whole motherfucking FBI search team with them. When they came got me, the motherfucker said, yeah, we was coming to get you yesterday, but we got busy. I'm like, I'm saying to myself, thank you, because I had a good day yesterday too. I enjoyed myself. I stacked money. I think, matter of fact, that day I got arrested, I had a good day, And it's ironic, that day I was at the motherfucking lake all day with my girl. And then I dropped off. Go to another bitch house because that's in the hood where I was serving it. So I was with my wife earlier at the lake all day. And then I took her home about 9 o'clock because we was, having different houses. We had different houses. So she was staying with her daughter at the time. And then I had my own crib and fucking around with the other bitch too at her house. So when I dropped my wife off and come to the house, and it's ironic, it had been this one customer calling me all fucking day. And when I finally made it to him and served his ass, this motherfucker had $9. I'm talking about he had been calling me all day. That's probably who the motherfucker they was using. You know what I mean? Because I can't see a nigga that's snorting heroin having his money all day, ready till I get home to buy the shit. Now, I know the shit was good, but it wasn't that good. You know what I mean? Where motherfucker waited all day, nigga. And yeah, he was at a tavern or something, but anyway, it's crazy. I turned and, I'm at the light, I make it right. Then the police light me up. I'm like, damn, man, I ain't even do this shit, And my son happened to be out on the block because my son, one of the most, he was out on the block. He seen them pull me over. They pulled me over. And I pull over, They get me out the car and just cuff me up. I'm like, damn. My son looking like, what the fuck? They cuffed me up and took me to the car. He knew something was wrong then. He came and told my brother, hey, man, the police just grabbed Pops, man. They ain't asking for no license or nothing. They just cuffed him up and took him in the car. And, so they hit me with this. This is what they tell me, y'all. They say, yeah, Maurice, he said, you Maurice do that? I'm like, yeah, well, we're looking for it. They said it was a shooting in this car. I'm like, in this car? Oh, no, I know you're lying. I ain't shot no motherfucker not in this car. That's what I'm saying. I ain't shot a motherfucker in this car, nigga. I know you lying. So he said, yeah, well, we go take it to the station. Okay, yeah, that ain't shit. I wasn't even worried, right? So they got me, walking me in and shit. They running their little routes, right? And the motherfucker, as I'm walking in, the motherfucker got a ID. He walked in. He said, Maurice Jewett, these shrimp? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm looking at you. And he handed me an ID, right? It said, narcotic investigation unit. I'm like, okay. I handed it back to him. Okay, what you showing me that for? I'm here for a fucking shooting. You know what I mean? They said, I'm here for somebody supposed to shot. I ain't here for that. And then, he took me in. Now he wants to talk and all this shit. Okay. Yeah, well, we finna serve a search warrant on your house and everything. I'm like, a search warrant on my, what house? They gave my address to the building I'm at now. I wasn't living here at this time, right? But it always my resident because we own it, right? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All my shit, my dope at the bitch house on Main Street. in the hood, right? In Rutherford. I'm comfortable. That bitch so smart. Listen, they come there and hit the hill. Shit, she searched her whole room. She found my gun, the dope, everything I had. She went hid it in the vacant building next door. And put that shit up. She had the strap. I said, how you know a gun was in that shoe? She said, I was cleaning up one day and I kicked that shoe and it was heavy. I'm like, see, I like a bitch like that that's observant, paying attention. She would never touch none of my shit. I would come there and she had been rearranged the whole room. If I had a pistol under the damn bed, that motherfucker would still be under the bed. But the bed would be from the left side to the right side, but the strap's still under the bed. She would move shit around all the time, find shit, and put it right back. She was cool like that, That's why I fucked with her the long way. Me and her, we was always cool. Never had an argument, none of that type of shit. You can respect a bitch like that. She was the side chick, they be more submissive and they play their part better, because they trying to keep what's going on. Because if a bitch go be your side bitch, you getting money anyway, because that's the only way you can keep them in check anyway if you got money, you know. As soon as the money run out, they ain't trying to do that shit, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, and they took me in, I was in there, man, and then they go to my house, tell me they found the pistol. I'm like, a pistol, this the hood. We got straps and shit. I'm like, all right. That's all right, man. Well, fuck it. All right. Well, you see y'all found the gun. So what about the shooting they talking about? I don't know about it. I'm like, what about the shooting? I said, let me ask you this. The police who picked me up, were them your guys? He's like, yeah, I see it. Y'all just lied to me anyway. Yeah, y'all take me on to my cell, man. Get me fingerprinted. Because I'm in the room, sleep, handcuffed, when they went to raid the fucking house, The reason they grabbed me, they was going to the station to prepare for the raid. They sent me in traffic, and I wasn't going to the house. I made a right and was headed toward the damn Rhine. And they didn't know I was finna go to Mate because I stayed on Racine. They seen me go the opposite way. They called it in and said, damn, Sarge, we see the guy we finna hit house. And like, where he at? He like, he's not going to the house. Looked like he headed toward the Grand Dan Ryan. No, grab his ass. Grab him anyway and just bring him in. So they grabbed me and brought me in. So it's a chance if they hadn't seen me, they would have missed me because I wouldn't have went to the house hill. You know what I mean? They'd have hit that motherfucker and I'd have been on May. Because that's where I was headed, to the chick house. And I was kind of relieved when they said, we finna go raid your house. I'm like, what house? And he called them both. He like 73rd, 7313 May. And I'm like 7013 May. No, 7301 West End. I'm like, what house you talking about? I'm playing dumb. He like, 73rd May saying, oh, yeah, you can go ahead. I got comfortable, man. I was mad, though, when they found that pistol, though, man. They found the gun I had in the wall, y'all, that had been in the wall about 20 motherfucking years, man. You know how you have a spot in the wall and you could reach your arm down there and just stuff it. You know how we do shit in the hood, a little hole in the wall. So it was in there and it kind of slipped all the way down, right? So I'm like, well, fuck it, I ain't gonna break the wall to get it. We had so many damn guns. I didn't need it. This will be my little backup emergency gun. If something happened, I'll keep the wall in and I can grab him if I'm, down to the last, So I left it in there. And they fuck around. And because it was kind of like covered up where you couldn't see it. But they found it and they broke that damn wall and found that damn gun and charged me with it. I was so damn mad when I got to the county. When my people came to see me, I'm in that motherfucker. My nephew and my mother coming in. They're like, "You alright?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And they talking about they found the gun. And then I'm asking my nephew, I said, man, what they talking about they found the gun and they got some ammunition and shit. What gun these motherfuckers talking about they found? He talking about, man, they're special. I'm like, what? I ain't got time to think all this slick shit. What the fuck you talking about special? He talking about the 38 special, right? I'm like, I ain't got time to think of that shit. What motherfucking gun they found, nigga? Oh, the 38. What 38? Oh, it was in the wall somewhere. Oh, man, that old ass motherfucking gun. God damn it. Shit. That might motherfucking have motherfucking shooting from the 60s on it, that old ass gun, man. Crazy part, I beat the case. I beat the case. Uh, yep, I beat that case. That's crazy. And man, listen. Sometimes, let me tell y'all something about going to jail. People who don't never go. If you really need money to fight these cases. If you got some money, most people go to the penitentiary, they cop out. They get scared and they cop out. That's one case I fought because I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I don't know nothing about this gun. I'm taking it to trial. Guess where I took it to trial at? In fucking Bridgeview. I let my goddamn nuts hang, boy. You hear me? I had a lawyer. I didn't even know how good he was. But I'm going to tell you one thing. He made me confident when we was walking out. And he like, fuck that, man. We going to take this to trial because they're not going to offer you anything pretty good. But we going to take it to trial. So I'm walking out, me and my wife. I said, man, damn, you think we got a chance of winning? That motherfucker said, sure we do. I said, damn. I told my wife, I said, he sound confident than a motherfucker, Sandy, didn't he? She said, he sure did. And guess what? That motherfucker won that case. They lose a lot of time trying to be dirty and cheat, y'all. Lying. They charged me with possession of a firearm. I wasn't even in the house. This is how they do. To be charged with possession of a firearm, the criteria are this. You got to get caught with the gun on your person. It got to be either in your place of business or resident, or you have knowledge of the gun. Now, I wasn't there. I didn't have it on me. I wasn't there. So they used the last one. They try to say I had knowledge of the gun. And they had a lie. They said an officer heard me talking to the other officer and said I knew the gun was in there. When I was in the room handcuffed and he come back in there, I'm ready. I'm like, all right, uncuff me, man. Y'all to search the house. I should be ready to go. He like, nah. I'm like, wow, what's up? I said, y'all found something? I said, y'all found something for real? He like, yeah. I'm like, what? And he told me that. I'm like, oh, man, y'all bullshit. I knew they was bullshitting me then. I'm like, all right, come on. He go lie and say he heard me say I knew the gun was in there. How the fuck I knew the gun was in there when I asked my nephew at the county what gun they was talking about and where they found it at? I didn't even know nothing about the fucking gun. You know what I mean? Until we thought about it. I didn't know shit about that. And you know what? It's crazy, y'all, how that all happened. And I'm going to wrap this up, y'all. How that happened. When you go to court, y'all, court is from like 9 o'clock, by 12 o'clock, they out of that. You know what I mean? It was 10 minutes, like 15 minutes to 12 when they called our name. He said, Maurice Jewett against such and such. And the judge like, yeah, okay, we go continue. He said, no, it's set for trial today. He said, trial? This what the judge said, trial. He looked at the clock like, motherfucker, we finna go. This what he's saying. They said, we finna go. And my lawyer said, it's just a quick little bench trial, Your Honor. So he like, oh, okay, we don't have to pick 12. You know, if you ever want to beat your case also, you stop picking them 12 people, y'all, because they don't know the law. The judges know the law if you get a felon. Now, sometimes a judge can be against you. Like the first judge Young Thug them had, he would have convicted their ass. You know what I mean? But I had a fair judge. And he sat there and listened to the case. And they didn't have nothing on. My lawyer ate him up on every cross-examination. These motherfuckers was talking about shit they found in this room, weed in this room, such and such and that. The room where they found my proof of residency at, nothing was in it, right? So the judge, he said, are y'all sure you got the right person? He said, yeah, he said, what did you find in the room with the proof of residency? Nothing. And even the judge said, sounds like the defendant room was the cleanest room in the house. Y'all found shit in every room except his room, you know. You sure y'all had the right person? No, we had the right person, Your Honor. You know, then they say, we found packets of heroin, aluminum foil, suspect heroin. He said, packets of aluminum foil, suspect heroin. And he said, well, was it look like it had been consumed or was something in it? Well, it looked like it had been consumed or not packaged. He said, well, why did you bring it up? This is what my lawyer said. He said, don't worry. Don't answer that. I know why you brought it up. They went to the next one, right? And then they hit me with the bullshit knowledge of it, right? You know what the judge said? He said, I know my daddy got a gun in the house. So if y'all raid my house, y'all would arrest me? Case dismissed. No, he said, finding them not guilty. Case dismissed. Boy, I want to jump up and walk out like Tupac, y'all. But I'm like, and my wife sitting there, she had her head down. After my lawyer had beat the 2 or 3 cross-examination, I'm like, Sandy, psst, psst. I'm trying to get her attention because Sandy. I'm like, Sandy. She like, we winning, bitch. Pay attention. Pay attention. We winning, bitch. This shit, you ain't listening. My lawyer done fucked him up on every cross-examination he done won. Listen. And the last one, the judge won for us. The judge was trying to get the fuck up out of there. Judge like, oh no, y'all ain't got this. Y'all needed 3 criteria to prove this man had the case. And y'all lost 2, and then last one, because that ain't enough. Talking about he knew the fucking gun was in. No, he did not. He wasn't even there, you know. And he hit him with that, hey, I know my dad got a gun in the house. Y'all arrest me. It was over with, y'all. Anyway, man, that's your boy, man. Dig going back, man. He got to go through that shit, y'all. That's why, hey, crime don't pay, man. Well, not like it used to. Not like it used to, boy. You better get out while the getting is good. Some of you niggas, if you getting some money, stop trying to show everybody, put it up, buy something, and do what you need to do. You know, let me tell y'all this story before I go to. You know what an old timer told me one time, y'all, and I bet some of you young niggas still don't know this. He said, you young motherfuckers hustling, and y'all don't know the name of the game. Now, we was in the county. He talked shit for 35, 40 minutes and got up and he was leaving. I was a young nigga. First time in the county, first case. So I'm sucking this game up. He getting ready to leave. Now, I said, hey, man, you old bastard. Come here. That was wild, too. I said, man, you been talking 45 motherfucking minutes. You ain't told me the motherfucking name of the game yet. And he, you know, them old motherfuckers, they be real dramatic. He walked to the bar all cool and shit. He said, look, shouted, the name of the game is get in and get out. No wonder all them old timers end up with lounges and restaurants and shit. They knew the fucking name of the game. Get in and get out. They knew they couldn't do this shit for forever. We didn't. We thought, okay, we hustling. Boy, I'm gonna be rich, man. I'm gonna sell drugs forever. The police ain't gonna get me. They ain't gonna fuck with me. Shit, they can't get me. We never thought about getting out the game. Everybody got an entry plan, but nobody have an exit plan, y'all. If people have an exit plan, they'll succeed more. Because when you can look outside and you can see 2 or 3 cars out there, you got 30, 40,000, you flipping here and money put all up, you can cash out, bro. You really just inviting eyes that's going to get you locked up for a long time. A lot of people could have been cashed out. Been cashed out. Anyway, man, it's your boy G Shrimp, everybody favorite baby daddy, voice of the street, man. I'm gonna punch you now, dig you later. I'm out of here.